I know you can't see me super well right now, but it's before sunrise, and I want to try something new. I want to try and take some wildlife images in my backyard. So before this video starts, I feel like I should maybe give a little bit more context. Otherwise, the video's just going to start in the pitch black, and the only dialogue is me whispering once or twice. So, my idea for this little short series or ongoing videos that I'm going to do is I'm just going to, any days where I'm home around sunrise and I have no plans to go out and take photographs anywhere else, I'm just going to pick a spot in the bushes somewhere on the property and try and get some wildlife images. And this will serve two, well, maybe more than two, but a few purposes. The first being I really want to understand the wildlife around here. And I know we have lots of wildlife. We have deer almost every day. They're sort of all over the property, and they don't really follow the same pattern. But I chose the spot I am this morning particularly because there's a fox. He only comes around every couple days, but he tends to stay along this tree line. So in future days, I'm probably going to start here as well until I get a better understanding of the fox's habits. And as I get more comfortable with what's around here and sort of their habits, maybe I'll move around to different positions around the property, because admittedly this is a pretty bad spot at sunrise because everything's casting shadows. Anyway, that's the first purpose, to understand the wildlife. Another one is to just take advantage of any opportunities I have to take photographs. So I almost have an hour every morning at sunrise. I can just wake up, come in here for an hour, and that's all I want to do. I just want to come out for an hour, maybe an hour and a half, not too long. And I feel like I'll be rewarded eventually. Maybe not every time I come out, but there'll be some nice opportunities for photographs. I didn't think this through. My dogs are barking at me from the house because I'm not particularly well hidden. Day one of this experiment may be a bit of a bust. So I'm doing this little experiment, and it may be an ongoing thing. I doubt that this one morning will be enough for a whole video. But not all the time am I able to get out and go for really nice hikes or go take some wildlife images. But I know there's nice wildlife in my backyard. I see deer almost every morning. There's a fox that scurries around, and I'd really like to track the fox and see where he goes. So this is my first attempt at making a dedicated attempt for some wildlife images in the backyard, and maybe it'll be an ongoing thing. I might workshop it a little bit, but maybe it'll be called Backyard Beauties. And now I'm gonna shut up so I don't scare anything away. And I'll admit I'm not super well hidden, so this is just my first attempt. It may not go super well. So far, there's just been the one crow I've been filming and one chickadee that just flew over my shoulder. No signs of deer, foxes, skunks, nothing else yet. But the sun's just starting to officially peek over the horizon now, so maybe some more activity will start to happen. I think that's going to be the end of the first day. I've been out here for a while. It's about an hour and a half after sunrise now, and the only activity I saw was a crow and a chickadee that I was unfortunately unable to take an image of. It's been longer than I'd like to admit since I was in my backyard looking and scouting for animals, but I've been doing lots of traveling, visiting friends and family over the holidays, so this is the first chance I'm getting to get back out here, and it's rained a lot over the last 2 days, so a lot of the snow has gone away and it doesn't look super pleasing. And it's really dark, so I doubt I'll be able to capture any really nice images today, even if there's any activity. But at the very least, I'm just hoping to get a little bit of insight into the behavior of any animals I see around here, in hopes of capitalizing on that and getting some really good images next time I get a chance when conditions may be a bit more favoring. But for now, I sit and wait in silence. Admittedly, if I was trying to be as stealthy as possible, well, A, I wouldn't be speaking, but I'd also be laying prone on the ground. But when I'm prone, I feel like I don't have as much mobility. And because I don't exactly know where things are or may come from, i.e. deer, and hopefully I'm still dreaming of that fox, then I want to get some observations while I'm comfortable, so that going forwards, when I'm trying to be super stealthy and guarantee a nice image, I'll know where to go. So I've really just picked a spot that's kind of hidden by a couple trees, but it's quite open to the field. As I'm sure you can tell from that last clip there, something went terribly wrong with my audio. It's happened a few times in the past. I'm not exactly sure what causes it, but I think it's some combination of extremely cold wind and maybe being too close to my jacket and getting rustled. So for the remainder of this video, I'm gonna have to try my best with this voiceover to explain how my morning went. I hadn't seen much activity in front of me. There were no deer, certainly no foxes, and I couldn't even really see any birds, but I could hear lots of songs and lots of bird calls. So I took out my phone and I used the Merlin app, which is excellent at identifying birds based on their calls. And I actually found a couple observations that were quite unique. There were some goldfinches, which they're around quite a bit, but I couldn't see them. And I even got a hit for snow bunting, which I'd never seen, and they're quite rare around here. So I tried to find it, but I couldn't. I think it was pretty far away, and they tend to be low to the ground, so it could have been hidden in the brush in the forest. So unfortunately, I was unable to find any of those birds, but behind me, there was a huge swarm of chickadees. So I spun around and I tried to get a couple images, but they did not turn out at all. The sun wasn't up high enough in the sky, so there was no light in the forest behind me. I couldn't get a fast enough shutter speed, and they're so small flying around. I really didn't even capture any images worth showing whatsoever. After I spent some time just watching the chickadees and not really trying to capture any images because they weren't going to turn out, I spun back around and watched the rest of the sunrise. And as it became bright, I noticed that there were quite a few deer tracks around where I was sitting, which is not surprising because I've seen them around here before, but I hadn't seen them this morning, and they were fairly fresh tracks in the snow, so they must have gotten up just before me. So I decided to kind of walk down the property and see where these tracks led. I followed the tracks a little ways, and I was pleasantly surprised that there was a group of 4 or 5 deer all the way over at my neighbor's property, sort of hugging a tree line. And I kind of stumbled across them at the perfect time because as the sun was coming up, it was casting nice golden light and it was reflecting off the deers perfectly. One problem being they were very far away, so that's hard to photograph to begin with. But there was also two fences in between me and them, just garden fences. So they were hard to photograph. And they were in the middle of the field, and where I was, I couldn't easily approach them without spooking them. And where they were so close to the forest already, I figured if I moved any closer or scared them at all, they would just run away. So I kept my distance, but I actually learned quite a bit from observing them. And I got a couple, I mean, interesting images. They're not award winnings and they probably won't even get posted, but I'll share them. They're interesting enough. What I realized is that we've had some warm weather these last couple of days, and they probably weren't where I was observing, sort of in front of me, because it was covered in snow and they can't easily access the grass there. But over towards my neighbor's house, where they were and where they were grazing, the sun had melted away most of the snow, so they could easily access the grass. They had more food, which, I mean, makes perfect sense. So in future days, maybe I'll post up in the backyard
where there's accessible nutrients, whether it's grass or low hanging brush. And maybe that'll give me a better opportunity to capture more images of these deer going forwards. After spending these 2 amazing but freezing cold mornings out in my backyard observing the wildlife, I didn't come away with very many images I'm particularly happy with. I got a few with sunrise and trees and the crow that I'm relatively happy with, but I have learned quite a bit, especially about how the deer behave in the backyard in relation to snow and food availability. And if the weather holds out for tomorrow, as I'm recording this now, I'm planning on going out again in the morning, and maybe I'll be able to capture some more images of these deer. I hope you enjoyed this video. Hopefully, the voiceover isn't terribly recorded. I have audio issues. It happens. It's just reality. Um, but if you like this video, come back for more. I plan on doing more of these little backyard series and making other photography related videos as I travel around and spend mornings hiking around with my camera. I hope I see you on the next one. Till next time.